So today's talk was about spiritual balance. And I had all sorts of wonderful ideas about how this was going to be about how we run around and do things and we don't pay attention to our spirituality. And then it dawned on me this morning that spiritual balance is an illusion. There's one. One power, one presence, one life, one source from which everything emerges. Balance requires two. So there is only one life, and that life is knowing itself as us right here and now. The entire journey, the whole package, is a spiritual experience in this human plane, this material plane of, I like to call it the playground of where we are. You know, and we're the little kids running around on the playground. And that sounds so wonderful, right? Do you guys remember the playground? I grew up in the Philadelphia public school system. Our recess time happened on a big blacktop, right? And it was brutal sometimes. Dodgeball, for crying out loud. You know? Standing in line for kickball and being the last kid picked. Right? Getting picked on by bigger kids. And occasionally having that great little talk with your best friend in the corner of the playground where nobody was going to bother you. Life kind of seems like that sometimes, doesn't it? But the real point is that we are centers of creative consciousness within the wholeness of God. This is the ability we're given as conscious beings. We have the opportunity to use our thoughts to create a different experience in this life. That's the entire philosophy of the science of mind and spirit. Is that we can use our thoughts to create a greater life, to experience more of this life in love and joy and harmony and peace and prosperity than we are currently doing. Now, that doesn't limit anybody from having already experienced a great deal of joy and peace and harmony and prosperity in their life right now. But there's more. But wait, there's more. You too can experience this divine nature of your life with just 5 minutes of meditation a day. Buy my book now. No, honestly, there are things that we do to try to get our awareness more into this consciousness of the truth of our own being. Meditation is one of those really critical ones because it's that time where we sit down and we try to let go of all of the thinking, because we have these brains. And our minds are really powerful things, and they think a lot. You ever try to catalog the thoughts that you've had in 10 minutes? Oh my goodness. Now think about a whole day. Now let's think about a whole life. You know, there's just all this stuff going on all the time. So when we stop for a moment and set ourselves into meditation and maybe focus on our breathing, I'm sure we're going to do some of that later. Right? Where we focus on the moment of existence, because this is the only moment of existence. Reverend Bill and a bunch of us went to Deepak Chopra a week ago Thursday, and he talked about that. He says, you know, by the time I finish this sentence, this moment is over, and over, and over, and over. So we can't really define what this now experience is, but it's the only part we're actually living. So everything else is some former thought of what we think we experienced in the past, yet that's not even true. How many of us have ever had the experience of looking back through our memories and having a really crystal clear memory of that until somebody else who was there tells you their crystal clear memory of that? And the two just don't seem to mix. And you're going, wait a minute, I don't remember like that at all. And so, you know, our memory is flexible based on what our desires of the current moment is. And our projections into the future haven't occurred yet, so that's complete imagination. That's the power of our thinking, building what we want to experience in the next moment, in the next part of our life. And so what Ernest Holmes said and defined was that it was the tendency of our thoughts that brings about our experience. Not every single thought, although every single thought has power because we are dealing with principles, and it wouldn't be a principle if it didn't apply all the time. Right? But it's the tendency of our thinking because we're having millions of thoughts a day. Right? So it's all about thought control.
That sounds worse.
I'm going to do a little experiment for you guys to take out into the world this week. It's really easy. Okay, so thought control is what you ever try to control your thoughts?
Never.
Don't look at red. Okay. I want you to go through the week telling yourself, don't look at red. Think you're going to be able to do that? How many people already look for something red in the room? Right. You know, so all these thoughts flow through us so quickly, and then we're inundated by outside thoughts, as if there were an outside to God, but outside of our own individual experience of this thing. By outside, the Dow Jones Industrial dropped 400 points today. That's 2.5%. Right? Think about how many of those thoughts we get every day, given to us by other people who are out there talking on radios or whatever, you know. And our friends do it to us. You shouldn't be doing that. Whatever. You know, but we get thoughts from everywhere. Our colleagues, our friends, our you know, associates, the people we run into on the street, the people we listen to on the internet, the people we listen to on the TV, and wherever you're getting these thoughts from. And each one of those is putting it into your conscious, creative being to bring something about. Right? So thought control is not so much about being able to control all of your thoughts. It's about bringing the tendency of your thinking to the objective you wish to experience. Now think about it. Last week we talked about RPA, so I'm going to talk about them again a little bit. Because sometimes what we need is a response to all of those thoughts that are being poured into our brains by all of the people that are saying negative things, or what we choose to call negative things. Just remember, it's a package deal. There really aren't any negative things. It's just life. You know, but sometimes there are things we'd rather not experience, right? Poverty, illness, things of those natures that are not necessarily pleasant experiences, but they certainly are part of life. You know, there's 7 billion plus people on the planet, all experiencing things differently, and we can choose to live above the law of averages if we so desire, by creating the tendency of our thoughts in a more positive way. So, you know, when somebody says, the Dow Jones Industrial dropped 400 points today, and you go, my retirement is going kaput. You can turn around and say, I am worthy. I am prosperous. I am enough. I'm beautiful. I'm powerful. I'm gifted. I'm loved. Right? And start changing the tendency of our thoughts. You see, we're co-creative in nature. We have a directive consciousness. We can direct our thinking into whatever channel we choose to direct it in for the majority of that thinking. And then there will be a tendency for those experiences to manifest in our life. Lingo, bingo. Manifest. I like manifest. It's a nice word. So I invite you to use those as a tool to redirect your thinking. But to go back to the spiritual balance between doing and being, when we set ourselves into a place where we have a regular spiritual practice, a meditative practice, a prayer practice, whether it's a moving meditation, yoga, beautiful practice. Wish I could do it. I prefer the elliptical. That's my spiritual practice. Whatever mood that you're in for spiritual practice, whether it's sitting on your purple pillow or listening to beautiful music, or that was such a meditative song, Greta. Thank you so much. I was so gone into the music with this anticipation of what the next phrase was going to be. You know, that's the moment of experience. You know, that's the moment of glory coming into my life and being a part of something that is uplifting just by being here. What a wonderful choice. Thank you. And that's what we have in each moment, is the ability to choose how we're experiencing something and how we would like to be experiencing that thing. So I'm going to invite you not to try to control your thoughts, because that's going to be a really tough job. And perhaps the Ascended Masters had it, and they got it, and they're working with it. You know, I don't know. I haven't quite reached that level yet. I do have a regular meditative practice, and what I find is that I am more attuned to the statements that I do not want to accept into my experience when I have meditated on a regular basis. Because when I meditate on a regular basis, I know who Dave Schwach is. I know what my intention of life is. I know that I am a divine spirit embodied in this spacesuit to have fun on this playground, to do what is in front of me to do. And that all is well. That's what meditation gives me, is that centered sense of peace from which to respond to the world. When I am not in a meditative space, the responses are more reactive. And I've just noticed this about myself. I'm more prone to become angry, frustrated, disenchanted, disillusioned about any given situation, because I have not prepared my mentality for a tendency of thought that expresses love and harmony and peace and prosperity and joy. So I'm not in a place of being prepared to be harmonious and peaceful and joyous and prosperous and loving. So I find that for myself, and I invite you to try it in your own lab of your life, to find whether or not actually setting the intention in the morning, every morning, to be those wonderful qualities, that essential goodness that you are, and be that in the world today, does not help you be that more often. Now, I'm not going to say, because I've never experienced a complete day in which I did not lose it at least once. And I work on this stuff. You know, where some negative thought slipped in and I got some disillusionment happening, or I felt lack, limitation, or, unfulfilled desire in some way. And in that moment, I actually had to stop and say, I am worthy, I am prosperous, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am gifted, I am loved. I keep one in my wallet. I keep one on my desk at work. They go, what, are you weird? No, I'm peaceful. Why don't you come to my Sunday celebration? We'll have more fun. They look at me a little strange. So the way that we don't control our thoughts, but we do direct them. We can direct them into a channel of a greater experience of life. And that will tend to manifest itself in our experience. So if we want more joy in life, we have to start by being joyous. Now, sometimes that can be difficult. If we're sitting at the bottom of the pit of despair, right? It's hard to say, oh, I'm happy, I'm loving the world as joyous. But you can move a little bit away from that. You can say, I know that joy is present because joy is an aspect of God. It is an aspect of this infinite spirit that is ever present everywhere, and therefore it must be present for me right now. And I have but to turn to it. And then I go searching for that little piece of joy that I remembered, because that brings back the feeling of what it was to be joyful. And then I have a guidepost about where I want to go. Right? This is a good use of the memory, is to bring back those moments that embodied the nature of life that we want to be experiencing on a regular basis. And that we can bring into our consciousness right now to create a greater tendency of good in our life. A greater tendency of love or joy or abundance. You see, we live in a universe of love. And that love is the givingness of spirit to create all of this playground for us to be in. To be itself as us in a unique and wonderful way right now, to experience this moment as a divine presence of consciousness. Co-creative in nature. And with the ability to direct our thinking to create a better life. That's the wholeness of it. We are living within this love that is guided by principle. It is a law. There is a cause and there is an effect. The cause is our thinking. The effect is our life and our experience of life. So, when we can create this tendency towards a positive experience in life, if the belief is so strong and so clear, then we will experience nothing but good. Because it's a law. And I know everybody's going, yeah, right. But it's a good thing to look for, right? It's a good thing to create a pattern of thinking that is more closely resembling your world of perfect peace, harmony, joy, love, and prosperity. And if each one of us in this room create a world of peace, love, prosperity, and joy, then how much more peace, love, prosperity, and joy is there in the planet, because this room full of people is living that. And how many people does that touch? And then one day we turn around and go, look, do you remember those crazy old years where we weren't living in peace, love, harmony, joy, and prosperity? Well, how'd that happen? By the tendency of our thinking. So I invite you, pick up an RPA card, try some meditation to know who you are, to center yourself in knowing what you want to accept in life, and to be able to filter out the stuff that is just there to make you feel like you are not enough. Because you are enough. We all are enough. For crying out loud. We're the divine embodied. How can that not be enough?
Amen.
And I'll finish with this. This talk is dedicated to Dr. Jean Schbach Collins, who passed away a year ago on Friday. She was a board member, a founding board member of this community. She was always creating something new with her life, always. She was shining her light in the healthcare field, in the spiritual field, in the education of children and nurses for many decades, many, many decades. And she was a wonderful mother, and I am grateful to be her son. Namaste.
Namaste.